Look, we're increasing our national debt by $1 trillion every 100 days. At the end of 2023, the end of 2022 rather, the national debt was 32 trillion, and it was 2.5 trillion dollars higher at the end of the year, at the beginning of this last year, 2024, and it took us over 230 years to do that the first time. And just so people understand how big this is, 1 trillion seconds ago was 31,688 years ago. So you're talking numbers that are so big, it's crazy. And really, you could argue that we have a lot of the good graces, if you will, or our standard of living has been through the good graces of our foreign creditors. And so, I think, number one, those foreign creditors are looking at accumulating our debt as something that they don't want to do because they don't believe that we have our fiscal house in order, adding $1 trillion every 100 days. And so this is a big deal if they don't want to accumulate our bonds anymore. I guess I would just simply say this, that I don't think inflation is going away. If you were to ever interview John Williams of Shadow Stats, a very fascinating man whose whole work is just looking at the way numbers used to be calculated in the CPI and in unemployment. And he'll tell you inflation right now is actually more like 10 or 11%, not what we are being told. As you mentioned, electronics are cheap, but the things that we need, food, energy, and housing, aren't even counted in the CPI. And so we're entering a period of time where I guess I would simply say this, that if you're not a contrarian right now, you're destined to be a victim. And if you are fully invested in dollars, I believe you're destined to go broke because everything good comes to an end.
According to Andy Shechtman, the national debt in the United States is soaring at an alarming rate, increasing by $1 trillion every 100 days. With the debt reaching a staggering $32 trillion by the end of 2023, Shechtman warns that the nation's addiction to spending has left it completely insolvent. By 2031, projections suggest that all tax revenue will solely cover interest on the debt, leaving essential entitlements like Social Security in jeopardy. Shechtman advocates for diversifying away from traditional assets and into hard assets like gold and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to mitigate the impending financial crisis.
And look, if we wanted to get our spending in order, maybe things would change, but we are a country that is addicted to spending. We've given over $100 billion to the Ukraine, and we are completely broke, and we are completely insolvent, and we are going around handing out money and giving money out and spending money that we are borrowing just to keep the lights on. Let me put it to you this way. The Congressional Budget Office, which is the last really nonpartisan group in Washington, came out and said that by 2031, 100% of all the tax revenue will go just to pay the interest on the debt and mandatory entitlement payments like Social Security, which is almost $77 trillion filled with IOUs. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And so look at it this way. How can this country, the land of the free, the home of the brave, maintain its supremacy financially and militarily when 100% of discretionary spending, which includes military, would have to be borrowed? Why would these countries want to borrow us money to fund our military to go around and coerce and sanction and confiscate assets when we are just diverging completely and totally from logic and from their ideology? And so this is why I say, could these things actually have been intended, because we're so far down a rabbit hole, to point to a villain? I don't know. And I look at things like hard assets and Bitcoin as things that people can do to get out of the way of what is coming. And, Buckminster Fuller said that people can't get out of the way of what they don't see coming. And right. Ask yourself, Natalie, all of the things that you understand, you don't see any of it on the mainstream. They come to you to get this information on Fox. I've seen it. So you have to dig and search and read and investigate and spend countless hours. You didn't just become who you are by reading the Wall Street Journal and USA Today. So the amount of effort it takes outside the mainstream to free yourself from the matrix, to get out of the way of what's coming, is extraordinary. And I think a lot of people don't have the energy. And one last point, when you talk about what are people viewing, when I landed in Florida, West Palm Beach Airport a few weeks ago, it was the day that the announcement came that the Colorado ruling was unconstitutional. And Trump came out to speak, right, about it, about the significance of it. And any news station, any television station should have that televised. And when I landed, I could see half of the seats in first class were watching Fox and half were watching CNBC. And honest to God, CNBC didn't even have him on, didn't even acknowledge it at all. So the information that we're getting, in large part, half of the country might be very well read, but arguably is reading and watching the wrong stuff, and they just can't get out of the way of what they don't see coming. So yeah, I don't know what people do, but I think if you're fully invested in dollars and traditional assets, you are destined to go broke or have a very religious experience when these things start to manifest, as I think mathematically and logically they will.
Continuing the discussion, Andy Shechtman highlights the urgency of diversifying investments amidst looming economic uncertainties. With the national debt skyrocketing and projections indicating that all tax revenue will soon solely cover interest on the debt, Shechtman emphasizes the importance of hedging against the impending financial crisis. He advocates for a balanced approach, owning both traditional assets like gold and silver, as well as innovative cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Shechtman argues that while Bitcoin offers unparalleled performance, precious metals provide stability and security.
100%. There's no question about it. And that's why I think that they are trying to reset the system and incentivizing it by signing an executive order to go green, and which plays right into the universal basic income, because that's exactly what a modern monetary theorist would want. And she would want to get rid of the banks. She would want to get rid of all of the 4,500 regional banks and local banks so that she can issue a CBDC directly from the central bank and blame someone. You're right. And you're right. Gold hasn't performed the way that Bitcoin has. I don't think I've ever seen anything in my life that has performed quite the way that Bitcoin has. And I think, again, I really do believe that they should be comrades. It shouldn't be either or. That we live in a world where so many things can happen, so that would just catch us all off guard. That there's such fluidity in the world right now. To not hedge your bet, to put everything on one side of the table is a mistake. And I would say the same thing to the Bitcoin crowd and to the precious metals crowd, that it's a mistake to do that. And I think, look, when we talk about Bitcoin, it has a gain that I don't think anyone's ever seen and lasting. When you talk about gold, it's the opposite. But just so people understand, in 2000, it was roughly $250. In 2020, it was $1773 average. 2021, $1798. 2022, $1801. 2023, $1943. And here we are in 2024 at $2150. So it's slowly going higher. And I think in any asset, you want it to continue to move higher and to show that strength. And I guess when you talk about Bitcoin, one of the things that intrigues me where we are right now is the ETF demand, which, is many times how many Bitcoins are being mined every day, like 900 or whatever that number is. When you measure it against the demand coming out of the ETFs alone, there's 2-3 times that demand. And then after the halving, we're only 450 or so are mined every day or minted every day, however you say it. You're talking about way, way more demand than there is supply. Well, that's a very compelling reason to own it. It doesn't change my mind of why I would want to own gold, but I want to own both. I am someone who owns both and will continue to own both. And I go 1/3 gold, 1/3 silver, 1/3 Bitcoin, and I continue to do that. I think that there's no reason to gamble. There's no reason to be married to my own ideology. But in my heart, I do believe that gold and silver are very, very, very important. And you're right, it lacks the ability to transport and to do all of these things that Bitcoin offers. But, there are things that precious metals have that Bitcoin doesn't. So why not have both is the way that I look at it, and be more well-rounded and not kick myself by saying, why didn't I do that? And I owe that to you and to Mark. And so you have my great respect, appreciation, and admiration for opening my eyes. Very few people are able to do that these days, but you guys did. And Because look, this is something that I think we are on the cusp, as you said, of the end of a system, the end of a Keynesian failed economic system based on debt and consumption and taxation, rather than the Austrian one where it's based on savings, investment, and reinvestment. And I think that's the way that you succeed. And you look at the wealthy people, as you said, it's not that they have massive checking accounts, they have tons of assets. And that's how you get ahead. You pay yourself first, you buy some assets, you continue to methodically accumulate them. And now I'm happy to say I've added a little diversity. But the one commonality is that they're all gold, silver, and Bitcoin are opposite the dollar. And to me, the way that you succeed in investing is not to be broadly diversified, because especially now, stocks, bonds, and real estate are all inversely correlated to a spike in interest rates. They are positively correlated. So the way to succeed in investing, to me, is to identify the primary trend, like the way the river flows. And to me, the primary trend right now, Natalie, is of a falling dollar. And so you broadly diversify within it. You can buy, Bitcoin, you can buy stocks, Bitcoin ETFs, you can buy like the Grayscale Trust, or you can buy gold, silver, platinum, mining shares. You broadly diversify within the primary trend, agricultural ETFs, farmland, whatever. Anything that will do well opposite the dollar is the place to be right now. And I guess the only other thing that I would say that is always front and center in my mind is we are entering a period of time of systemic and counterparty risk. Just look at the banks and you will see that. And I think counterparty risk, or look at the commercial real estate, the liability that people will face with counterparty risk is very, very, I think, acute, and it will be a very ugly phrase in the coming months and years. So it's nice to be able to own assets that are not simultaneously someone else's liability, whether it be cryptocurrency or whether it be precious metals. And again, I just want to impress upon you and everyone else out there that I think that it's foolish to go one or the other, and it's just a whole lot smarter to have a little bit of all and realize the benefits that all three of them offer in a world that seems to be changing as rapidly as can be.
Today, we delved into the alarming trajectory of the U.S. national debt, with Andy Shechtman shedding light on its staggering increase by $1 trillion every 100 days. He underscored the critical need for diversification amidst economic uncertainty, advocating for a balanced portfolio including traditional assets like gold and silver, alongside innovative cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Shechtman's insights remind us of the importance of staying informed and adaptable in today's rapidly changing financial landscape. If you found this discussion valuable, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more insightful content. Remember to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below.